What's up, Leafs Nation? Welcome back to another After Dark episode. I'm Zack Phillips, and we're going to be breaking down game number 9 of the Toronto Maple Leafs regular season here tonight as the Leafs fall 4-3 in overtime to the Boston Bruins. It's like rinse, repeat when it comes to this team at this point. It feels like I'm not going to be overly negative with how everything played out here tonight. I think it was a better game. It's just kind of unfortunate to have that be the end result. You end up in a situation where you push it to overtime. It's the big boys who show up and play here tonight, get it done, score the important goals, and then it's the big boy, who unfortunately is the one with the brutal turnover that we are not going to forget for how this one played out tonight. You fall 4-3 in overtime, go to 4-4-1 on the season, and I'm at least like happy with the effort, I guess, that was put in, and just not being sitting here going, wow, what the hell was that? How did we end up in this situation? But I mean, I'm sure most of you guys in the chat are at least able to look at this and say yourselves, well, that was predictable, at least the outcome and the way that it was played. But nobody was predicting this one better than Nick Alberga. We're going to get to him here in a second, but before we do, I want to remind people that Nick is brought to you by Square. If you run a restaurant, you're too busy for this ad, you're thinking about how to get more orders flowing and new locations opening. You need to get more customers and keep them coming back. So really, you're already thinking about Square, because Square Restaurant Tech helps more than 400,000 restaurants do all those things and more. So when you're thinking about your restaurant, think bigger and think Square. Go to square.ca and see why Square is big in restaurants. Nick, welcome to another After Dark. How you feeling? I was going to call you something, but I forget what the word is when you are Nostradamus. Is that what it is when you predict everything?
Bergstradamus, I think, is my nickname.
Okay.
Buddy, great to be with you. It was your prototypical shoot your foot in the loss
Yeah.
type of loss for the Maple Leafs against the Boston Bruins. How many times have we seen that against Boston? Why do they always have the answer, Zach's my question.
That would be. I wish I knew that answer. It feels like this team. It's no matter who is here, who is coaching, who the goalie is. It's like it does not matter. They figure it out. Boston has the answer for the special teams. They've got the answer for how to shut you down in the neutral zone and stop you from just flying through the autobahn, like Matthews called it against Columbus the other night. It's just like every single time they've got it, and it's just like I'm not a trends person when it comes to some of those things. Like you got to throw some of that shit out, but it feels like when it comes to Boston and the Maple Leafs, that's one you can kind of rely on.
Look, Zach, I'll tell you the saving grace. So, I'm a big baseball guy. I spent the majority of my Saturday hungover, but doing that, I was on the couch. I had a big rip on King West last night. It was outstanding.
Oh,
But
shocker.
it allowed me to start that Red Sox docuseries on the comeback against the Yankees in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
And all I could think about in those 3 hours watching that mini docuseries that, hey, at some point in time, the luck's going to reverse and the Maple Leafs are finally going to beat the Boston Bruins. Because if you do recall back in that era, the Red Sox just always, like the Yankees, always got the better. They just always got the better of the Boston Red Sox, and then they finally did it. So that's all I could think about during the day and watching this game as, again, the Maple Leafs came unglued. I thought the story was that second period turnaround where it's 2-1, you're sitting pretty, then 2-35, and then they didn't have much jam in the third period. I think I credit Boston defensively. They're a team that was maybe a bit more, I think, desperate than the Maple Leafs tonight because it's getting a bit louder in terms of Jim Montgomery there right now.
Okay, let's not jump on the panic. But the word you said there is one that I think is going to ignite people in Toronto, and it's not just tonight. That's the one thing that I've had to push back on Rosie on when he's come on the show. It's like, hey, like pump the brakes. It's like, yeah, well, it's not just these short period of games. It's years of building this up. Desperation, you said. Oh, Boston was the more desperate team. Why is that always the case? I don't want to do the yelling and screaming thing here tonight. That's not where I'm going to go with this one. It was better, but desperation. They wanted it more, and it's not to say the Leafs don't, but why do we always have to deal with that with this group?
It's always a theme, too, when they play Boston, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, not to beat a dead horse, but it just seems like there's so many different instances in this rivalry, say, even in the last decade, where it's like the Bruins are down and out, and they find a way to persevere. Like, I mean, if I had the answer to that question, Zach, I'd obviously be a very, very rich man. It's baffling. Even the way things played out in OT was so leafy, where they utterly dominated possession, had the puck, multiple opportunities to win the game. I thought Swayman made a couple of big stops, and then the one time they give away the puck just aimlessly, Boston eats it up and puts it in the back of the net. Man, it's just like it's like there's a script already written, and the two teams just play and they know the ending. It's nuts.
Not only that, but you knew the ending better than everyone. Brad Marchand, you sent a text before to the group and said this feels reeks of a Marchand goal, and lo and behold, there you go. So maybe you could be a millionaire, Nick. Predictions like that.
I didn't put much money on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just again, this one doesn't sting as much.
No.
I think it's always fair. Like us three, including Rosie, always talk about it. Don't get too high, don't get too low. It is game 9 of the season. Losing, I hate losing to Montreal and I hate losing to Boston. Like those two teams, it just pisses me off. I don't care how they lose, but I hate the term learning lessons, but I think there's a lot of positives you can grab from this game. It's entirely different, I think, than what we saw earlier this week with Columbus and St. Louis.
Well, yeah, let's get to that. I mean, I talked about it on the Tuesday and the Thursday shows following those games, and let's call it what it is. Those were some of the most embarrassing losses. It's not like they played like Columbus level on Thursday against St. Louis, but given the nature of the situation, it's Brube's old team. You expect some type of get up for the game. It was never there from start to finish. They basically got run out. And Tuesday, we know that what it was. We don't need to rehash that, but following up those games with this one here tonight, yeah, the loss sucks. The overtime loss sucks, but you saw them fight back at least there at the end. You get the tying goal. You get a lot of participation from the big boys. It's Matthews who scores that last one. And I mean, just looking down the box score quickly, nice on the board. Marner, 3 assists. Matthews, a goal and an assist. Like that first line who we've been harping on, hey, they got to get going. They get involved here tonight. How do you kind of feel now following that one, just the bigger picture and just the way that they were able to turn it around here tonight in this game, knowing what the hell we just came off with those last two kind of, I mean, garbage performances?
I guess it was a response, but man, like I feel the fan base, and again, we did the show on Friday, and I understand people are at wits' end. Like you watch it happen against Columbus, and they double up, and they played better against St. Louis, but still, considering the star power, was a really shit effort. Robert Thomas is done for an extended period of time, and
Yeah.
maybe the Blues used it as a galvanizing moment. But like we all know, especially seeing what we saw last Monday against the Tampa Bay Lightning, Zach, where it's like, holy crap, that was an unbelievable effort. We know what this team has in them, and I think that's the infuriating part. That said, I will feel a bit better sleeping tonight, considering what I saw from that top line. Contrary to popular belief, that tweet about Mitch Marner was actually not sarcasm. I thought he had one of his better outings through the first 9.
Yep.
I think he was everywhere, had some opportunities, a great pass on the tying goal for Matthews late in regulation. Like it was one of his better games. I thought Nyes were noticeable. I thought Matthews was pretty decent, albeit the shot attempts weren't there. But I remain optimistic that this is going to be a process. I think there's going to be some growing pains along the way when it comes to Craig Berube and the new staff coming in. But I fully expect this to have some turbulence throughout this season, man.
Yeah, it was one of the things that was brought up in the chat a lot was the idea that there was going to be an adjustment period here to Berube. I think we've seen some of that. It's going to kind of flip back and forth one way or the other to an extreme. I would assume through the first part of this season until they actually start to kind of make it part of who they are. But the only thing that was sad, I mean, we see a super chat here in the chat as well. One that was sent earlier, Maxentius Decimus, Leafs look ready for round 1, game 7. That was, I texted you that at the end of the game. I'm like, wow, that feels like game 7. Then even the OT goal was just like, man, that was game 7-esque right there.
I thought that was a great point you made. We were texting back and forth prior to coming on here, and it really had like an intense feel for game 9 of the season where it felt like a big game for both teams. Like,
yeah,
we touched on Boston. A lot of people already calling for the head of Jim Montgomery. He's one of the best coaches in the league. It just shows you the standard, the high standard in that market for winning that there is. And then you have the Maple Leafs coming off 2 blowout losses against Columbus and St. Louis, and so the intensity was palpable in this game, but it really did feel like a game 7 would feel, where there's like minimal ice out there and you have to find a way to grind through and get that bit of ice and score that key goal. And that's why I feel pretty good at the fact that Maple Leafs were able to pull through at least and tie this game. I mean, previous teams, who knows? I mean, maybe they bury under those circumstances. And I thought Anthony Stolarz, a lot of people talking about him in the chat. I
Yeah.
thought he was excellent once again. Made that breakaway save, I think on Matty Patra with like 5 minutes left. So you need those types of saves. I think if you're Craig Berube, you're happy with the point. You move on here.
Michael Borland there on the Stolarz point, another super chat. He says, "Are we worse than we think? Reason being, Stolarz has been so good that he may have been covering up the mistakes in the wins." Like, it's kind of a funny point that he makes, but I don't know. Do you think that that's an idea worth entertaining right now? I do think Stolarz has been incredible so far to start this season. Is he hiding some of the blemishes that this team's got right now?
I think so. I will add, though, like, if you do recall, it seems like years ago, but the first 6 games of the season, how stifling this team looked defensively.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by turbulence, right? I think they're going to struggle to find that consistency. But if you recall, a week ago, we were talking about how amazing this team is defensively. Like that, I think that's the least of the concern. It's crazy. I mean, this week has been nuts, man. We laugh about it because, again, Monday was an incredible effort. Then they come out with whatever that was on Tuesday. Then the Blues won. And then this one, and it's felt again like it's 6 months, but it's like less than 7 days. So, in short, I think it's a process. I think Stolarz has just been really solid. What you need, I mean, dude, you look around the league at some of the best net miners on the planet and some of the best teams in the league. They got the saves, and that's
Yep.
the one thing I will say early on. Even watching this game tonight, I really can't remember a goal where I was like, what the hell was Stolarz doing? How the hell did that go in? Which happened every, second game with Samsonov last year?
Yeah, I know. You think about if this game, look, I don't want to pile on the guy, but like if this game was Samsonov in net, you're probably winning 3-2 in the third period. And then there's one that beats him like low blocker from the wall, like Frederick in the playoffs, or somehow off his ass, or he's looking the wrong way. It just hasn't been that way. Every time I see that Stolarz is the guy that's going in, I feel pretty confident. The team looks confident in front of him. It's been a different feel. Feels really good, but yeah, the defense thing is pretty funny. There's a tweet that came out here. Obviously, we can find these records ourselves and stuff as well. But Jonas Siegel tweeted out, Leafs after 9 games, 2021-22. You talked about this the other day as well. 4-4-1, 22-23, 4-4-1, 23-24, 5-3-1, 24-25, 4-4-1. What do you make of these Octobers for these boys right now? Is this just another, it's the bigger picture can't start on time? Is that what's happening here? Like we micro it into single games, start 10, 20 minutes in, but is this just, October, whatever, we'll work our way back?
It's their yearly snooze, right?
Yeah.
I will say right now, you want a lock of the week betting wise. Monday, the Leafs will beat Winnipeg. Winnipeg's 8-0. It's going to
I
be their
know.
first loss. Guaranteed. This is what the Maple Leafs do.
Prime
They
night.
suck you back in. They're going to suck us back in, and we're just going to abide to it. And we're going to be like, okay, this team's fine. But I'm calling it right now. I think they beat Winnipeg on Monday. There's my call.
I mean, yeah, it's also like have their number. It's going to be intense. Winnipeg hates playing against Toronto. They're going to get that prime game. Like, and then all of a sudden, we're going to go from this unbelievable Monday game to this embarrassing Tuesday, Thursday, to a sad loss against Boston, to the highest of highs against Winnipeg. Like, rinse, repeat here, Nick. Rinse, repeat. That's how it feels right now.
Yeah, to answer your question, again, it really is bizarre because it seems like it's been a long time since this team had like a ridiculous start. Like I often think, and we both watch a lot of hockey. I watch some of these teams and just every night win, win, win. It's a why can't the Leafs just start like 8-2, or why can't they go on like a 14-game heater where they're like 11-0-3? Like it just seems like they make everything difficult. I know some people in the chat are getting on me, but like the fact that I'm okay, I think it's going to be a process. I believe in Craig Berube. I believe in what they've put forward to this roster. I think the back end's much better. I love what I've seen from Stolarz. I wouldn't be shocked if they go back to Joseph Woll on Monday. Like I believe in him. At least when he's playing, health is always going to be a concern with Woll. But like, there's a lot of reasons to feel like cautiously optimistic. But for now, like, it's on Craig Berube and it's on the coaching staff to find a way to get these guys going consistently, right? That's been the big story is like you mentioned it. from a night to night basis, you have no clue which Maple Leafs team is going to show up, and I think they're going to try to find a way to rectify that.
Yeah, and I want to get off the topic of, going back and forth, and it's always the same thing. But this is another example of that here tonight. Like you said, I don't feel that, like emotional, and I don't mean like upset by, but like, too intense about what happened. It's just, it feels like this is, I just watched what I watch against the Bruins, whatever, 4 or 5 times a year, every single year for 9 years. Like, it was just the same thing. I'm not losing my mind over it. I want to talk with you about a couple specific things here tonight. First and foremost, I know you have been adamant about Pacioretty and kind of just a supporter of him. I think he's looked pretty good. Berube, in some of the situations, took him out. He gets another opportunity to come back in here tonight into the Holmberg spot after he comes off day to day. I thought he looked pretty good here tonight. He was intense. He was physical. He was making some plays. Unfortunately, had a couple blocked shots, the one of which led to a pretty good chance. But outside of that, I thought Pacioretty had a pretty good night. What'd you make of his return to the lineup?
As advertised, personally, I think Pacioretty's not being utilized properly. Like, he's not a third liner. He's a top six guy.
Yeah.
And if like I just don't like the fit more so with a Nick Robertson. I'm not going to open up that can of worms. I just don't see a fit for Nick Robertson on this roster. So, certainly not with Max Pacioretty. I do give Pacioretty credit though, because he's been a lot more physical. I think it's quite clear that the staff told him like what we need you to do if you're going to play like a tertiary role the way he is. But you're right. I mean, at this point, they're utilizing him a specific way. I think in the long run, we did see it just before he sustained a lower body injury against Columbus, took a couple spins in that top line. I am curious to see Pacioretty play up the lineup a bit, just to see what he has. Like, I want to see more maybe of a bigger sample size with Matthews, with Marner, with Nylander. I just don't think it's the right fit right now. I think he's had some opportunities, but I think they need some depth scoring, and I think he'll provide that. How did you, what did you think of his game?
I was impressed. I was happy to see him back in. I've liked him in each of the games. I actually do agree with you. I don't like, he's not going to go on the first line for me. That's not going to work. Yeah. I don't see him taking over Nyes' spot. I have been the biggest fan, jumping on the Rosie train of like how much I love Matthew Nyes and how he's played. He deserves that like crazy. But I mean, outside of that, go down. Yeah. Second line, put him into there. Like, Bobby McMahon, no disrespect to him, but you're telling me that Pacioretty at this point couldn't fill that role? If you're watching him play, like even some of these things I wasn't sure he was going to be able to do. The physicality, winning battles, being heavier, he's doing that. And that was why I was so high on McMahon being in that spot, because I'm like, hey, he had something different than the other two. Well, right now, maybe Pacioretty's the guy who can help that line out a little bit more, add a little bit more scoring or whatever, and he's not going to take any focus away from Nylander being the centerpiece. So I do agree with that. I think that he looked really good here tonight. I was a fan just in some of the spots that he got put in. We saw Berube shake things up and put him, Tavares and Nylander getting some goes there later on in the third period as well. Just kind of rotating things and giving it a shakeup. That is one thing I want to ask you about here. I did want to ask you about Robertson, but you said you're not going to open the can of worms, so I'll leave it packed for now. I want to get your thoughts on the lineup shaking blender situation. At first, when Keefe came in, I was like, wow, thank God, because with Mike Babcock, it was so rigid. There was no room for anything, no changes, no split ups, nothing was going on. Keefe came in, it was like a breath of fresh air, and then by the end of it, we were all like pulling our hair out, being like, all right, dude, just put someone out there for 2 shifts in a row, please, so I know what's going on, even just as a fan once. Then you go to Berube. He kind of held things together, and he's gotten a little bit more creative into these third periods, shaking up some of the lines. I was kind of tracking some of it in the third period, how people were being put out. He's moving guys up and down. How have you kind of like evaluated his bench management and lineup changes throughout the first 9 games here, and how he was doing it against the Bruins tonight?
Well, I love how he coaches like shift to shift. I mean, I'm not going to take anything away from Sheldon Keefe. I think we're finding out pretty clearly here that there's a personnel issue. I mean, we all know it. I'm not going to open that can of worms either. I mean, it's just who knows? This is the last kick of the can for this franchise with these players. But I think I've noticed that he plays the hot hand. Like, for example, and accountability is a big thing I've noticed early on. Like, I don't know if you can link the two things, but Bob McMahon had the tough giveaway that led to the 3-2 goal, I believe. And then after that, him and Lorentz were flipped and he was playing on the fourth line. I didn't think Bob McMahon was good in this game. I thought he was dreadful.
Yeah.
He's going to have those moments. You got to remember, like, I mean, he's still very relatively green. I know he's a bit older in his NHL career. There's going to be some blips along the way. But I think he's just playing the hot hand a bit more. I think if we're all looking for that guy, similar to last year with Callie Yarncroke and Sheldon Keefe, like the teacher's pet, I think it's Steven Lorentz early on. Like, he just plays them in all opportunities, and I get it. I think he brings a lot to that table on the fourth line. But that's the one thing I've really noticed early on from Berube is just that he plays the hot hand. And I think even with Pacioretty, he's careful playing a veteran coming off serious injury as well. But I think he's given the big boys a lot of opportunity here. Over time, I think we'll find out more about Berube and how he's feeling, what he's thinking. But early on, no problems with anything.
We got a super chat here, big one. So I want to get to this and get your thoughts, and then I can let you go after. Actually, I'll have one more thing for you before you go. It's a big one from tonight, but super
Power
chat.
play.
I'm not talking about the power play. We're not doing that. I cannot do it. It'll come up 70 more times this year. I'm not doing it tonight.
Can you, like, I know you want to get into the super chat, but can you explain to me, like, who woke up this morning and said, you know what, this power play stinks. They can't even enter the zone. I have the solution. Let's put Morgan Rally back and let's take Ekman Larson off, and boom, we're going to start scoring on the power play. Can you answer that for me, Zach?
No, dude. I woke up and I saw that yesterday morning, and I saw that they were running the same power play unit out there in practice, and I was just like, "Are you kidding me? Like, what are we doing?" And then I see that he's back on it. I'm like,
dude, the drop pass is back too. I don't know if you noticed that.
I noticed it. The first time they did it, I sat there and just went, why? Standing up. Like, no.
Anyways, get to the super chat.
Colin McGillis here. Appreciate the super chat, Colin. He says, when you look at this lineup on paper, coaching aside, is this a cup contending team? We have no top level defensemen, and our best forwards have shown they can't get it done when it matters. Thoughts? Oh, it's loaded questions. So look at this lineup on paper, coaching aside. Is this a cup contending team? Kind of just points out some of the flaws in the lineup, but what do you make of where they're at right now and what the roster is as you kind of go through as we finished game 9 here tonight?
Yeah, it's tough. I think they are, personally. I like their offseason additions. I think their blue line is much more difficult to play against. Like, they have a roster that's harder to play against in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think anytime, Zach, you have players like they do, and again, we can rag on them all we want. Like, those guys get paid lots of money. They're unbelievably talented. You're always in that fight. At least for me, I don't care who's on your roster. When you have 3 guys who are bona fide stud stars in this league, anything is possible, in my opinion. Just takes a run, takes some puck luck. But I think anytime you have guys like that, I have to include you in my conversation. I think the crease is solidified. I think their back end is much better. There's a lot of time between now and the trade deadline. I think it's becoming more and more clear they're going to have to try to find a way to bring in a center, whether it's a top 6 center or a top 9 center, to even out the lineup a bit more. But again, I'm trying not to get too high or too low. I know we're coming off 3 consecutive losses now, 0-2-1 in this winless stretch, but I still feel really, really good about this team. And again, I think back to Monday and I'm like, holy shit. I mean, that was an unbelievable effort against a really, really good team. So I try to think more about that than what we've seen the last couple games.
To give my answer to this as well, do I think that the team right now, as is, would win the Stanley Cup? No. But do I think that let me be careful with saying core there. Do I think that the structure of roster of which has been built has the capability of morphing into something that can win the Stanley Cup? Yes. What I mean by that is I don't think that this needs to be rip it down and try it again in order to get to a Stanley Cup. I think you can tinker. I think you can add pieces, trade guys, whatever, within what you have right now. And it's not that much of a stretch to think that you can get those players to do so, if that makes sense. Like, I mean, even look at this, Nick. Like, there's a guy who's making $3 million who has played 1 game and is not looking to play in the foreseeable future. Like, that's going to be moved. It has to be. It's not even like, oh, like, would he move or not? Like, that he's got to go somewhere. He's going to either be traded or to the Marlies. Like, it's like some of those things I'm looking at. You're going to open spots up, roster spots, cap space. Stuff's going to happen here. You're going to have the ability or some flexibility with you. Like, you can improve this roster.
Yeah, I mean, what a fall from Gase, first and foremost to Timothy Liljegren, the fact that like Phil Myers is playing ahead of you, man, and you've played one game and you're making 3 sheets a year to just like eat popcorn in the press box. I think the asset management has not been pretty. Yeah. If I'm another team around the league, I don't know why I would trade for this guy. If I did right now, I'm not giving you anything. I think the likeliest scenario, if you're asking me, man, I think he's going on waivers. I think if he's claimed, and that's it. I just don't see it, to your point. Guy plays one game. You got Phil Myers, who's an NHL journeyman, playing ahead of you, and some team's gonna give you what you want in terms of assets. I don't think so. I think they've done a poor job with this whole thing.
I agree that the handling of the asset of Liljegren, how you're gonna kind of try to move it in any way at this point is gonna be tough. Yeah, dude, I don't I don't know. That's just one of those ones. I'm like, who's picking that up? Like, is it just better to let it go and you move on from the piece? If it's gone, he's gone. At this point, probably feels that way. I said it in the game preview too. I was like, here's the Leafs defense lineup. Like, things aren't looking good for Liljegren. No disrespect to Philip Myers, but like, he's the guy ahead of you right now. Like, that's tough if you're looking in that depth chart. Last thing I want to ask, it's an important one. It's the captain who has the all-time bad giveaway at the end there to lose this one to the Bruins. Thoughts on Matthews' game through the first 9 and what has kind of not gone right for him? I don't want to say gone wrong, but not gone right to this point. It feels to me like he's just like this far off on everything. It's that like small millimeter, not even an inch. He's like closer than that to things going the perfect direction, and it's not there right now.
It just shows you how supremely talented he is, where I couldn't agree more. I think he's had a very passive start. When Matthews is playing his game, he's got like that killer instinct to a degree where it's like, I'm taking over this game. There's nothing you can do. And to your point, it just feels like he's a fraction of a second off and slow on timing. Yeah, we just haven't seen that burst from him just yet. I think he had a bit of chem going with Mitch Marner and Matthew Nyes. Like, by far, I thought they were Toronto's best line in this game, really syncing together on the short passes. But I do see and hear Leafs Nation too. A lot of people calling for a split there once again between Marner and Matthews. But yeah, it's going to be one of those things. Like, I just hope he trends in the right direction and plays his best hockey at the right, most important time of the season. But I think it's been by his standards, I will say, because he's coming off a 69 goal campaign, he's won a Hart Trophy. It's been a so-so start thus far for Austin Matthews.
Yeah, it's being weird. It's like I can't look at him and say he's played poorly, but it's just he's not playing to the Austin Matthews standard that he set for himself. Just missing that. And another one here tonight where it's like couple points, scores the goal to tie it. He could have had the goal right before that as well, but it's like those moments, empty net, back door, and it just bounces off of his stick and he can't get it. And then he chases down Marchand, stops the empty net goal, and then all of a sudden down the other way, he ties it again. And then in overtime, he's the guy causing the turnover to lose the game. It's like a very weird start to the season for him. It's strange. I'm not panicked about this team. Felt much better here tonight. Nick, I appreciate you doing this, taking the time to hop on here post-game. Glad you were able to make it to 10:30 after your hangover day. What's the plan? You going to catch up on some sleep? Going out to King West tonight? What are you up to tonight?
No, I'm just chilling out. I'm going to watch some more hockey. I've got the Canucks game on right now against Pittsburgh, and then watching some World Series. Just chilling out tonight, man. But yeah, I'm eager to see what kind of Leafs team shows up on Monday. They always seem to rise up against Winnipeg. They're on Prime Monday Night Hockey once again, and the Jets are 8-0 to start the year. We just wonder, like, why can't the Leafs go on that type of run, you know?
I know. It's always, but what would it be if we couldn't get Leafs fans fired up through the first 8 games?
True.
Just keep it going, you know? Like, get people pissed off. Why wouldn't the team just make everyone happy to start the year? Like,
it's actually been like the good, the bad, the ugly in this week, right? The good was Tampa. The ugly was the Columbus game. And, like, I mean, the bad was, you know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like, it's the same old song and dance, and I understand, like, we feel the pulse of Leafs Nation. That's why we enjoy doing this stuff for you guys out there, because again, like, it just seems like we know the ending to this movie and we're just all waiting for it, right? And
Yeah.
I know Rosie hates it. It's a process. I think this team is different, but naturally we're going to find out in the springtime. I just a long ass time to get there.
You got a costume for Halloween this year? What are you gonna be?
I didn't. I went with Bret Hart last year, as you know, and I was going to go with Macho Man this year. That's why
Mhm.
I was sort of growing out the beard, but actually in a couple minutes I might shave this thing down to the wood, and
Oh,
I like to grow it back sometimes, but I don't think I have anything planned for Halloween. You doing anything?
yeah, I got stuff here for later. So,
Is
like
the wifey
cowboy.
just beside you watching or what?
No, no, no. They're at the bar already. At the bar
Oh,
already.
wow. So you're
Yeah,
headed out after the show.
yeah, probably. Do the
You
show,
dressing
get
up
the
tonight?
podcast. Yeah, got something tonight. I got a cowboy costume tonight.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
that'll suit you. That'll
yeah.
suit you. And there's rumors of our nation vacation being in Nashville this year, so you might have to bring that cowboy hat to Music City in March. But I'll finish with this. I hope you found a new home on King Street West, an upgrade in bars, maybe.
Can confirm. Can
Good to
confirm.
know.
All right,
Good to know.
Nick. Thank you very much for doing this. I appreciate it. Look forward to tuning in on Monday morning. You guys got any big guests on Monday? Is it just you and Rosie in there?
I think it's just me and Rosie
Perfect.
because we're going to recap this Toronto Boston game. We're going to look forward to Winnipeg. There's
Yeah,
a lot's cooking, but just
yeah.
you know us by now. Never say never when it comes to the guest department. You never know who could show up on Leafs Morning Take.
And that's why you should be subscribed here to the channel. Turn on
Yeah.
notifications. You never miss it. Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube. Leafs Morning Take. That is Nick Alberga back here Monday morning at 11 a.m. Nick, thank you as always. I appreciate it. You get yourself some rest. Enjoy the rest of the hockey tonight. We'll see you on Monday.
Stay hydrated, my friend. Take care.
Well, see ya. There you go. Nick Alberga hopping on to help us break this one down here tonight. Always appreciate him hopping by the show. That's why you subscribe. That's why you show up here every single night. You don't know who's going to be popping by Leafs Morning Take at 11 a.m. You don't know who's going to be hopping on Leafs Nation After Dark. Nick, Rosie, Hutz, Stewie maybe at some points. You never know who could be coming by. Here's some special guests as well potentially in the future. So there you go. Thank you to Nick for hopping on. I mean, I agree with most of what we're pretty much what everything with what Nick's saying here is that's that's kind of what you get with this Leafs team. Incredible Monday, crappy Tuesday, crappy Thursday, much better Saturday, and you still lose to the Bruins. It's like we can't really fully be happy. We're happy, but like no, not quite. Not quite. We got a couple super chats here. I want to make sure to answer these before, obviously, as we even get to some of the other segments that we've got here on the show tonight. We also hit 50 likes, all that kind of stuff. So we appreciate you guys for all the support, for showing up here every single night on the post-game shows. TML, I am not married. I have a girlfriend. That's all. Nick has met her a few times. She's not here, but that's what he's saying. He's making a joke. I've got a girlfriend. No wife. No wife. All right, let's get to these super chats that we've got. Tammy, thank you for the super chat as always. Tammy says, how many more games till we start to actually see Berube hold players accountable? I feel like there's I feel like there's got to be a little bit of a waiting period for it. I understand the question here, Tammy, but I think that what is going to happen is that he has to work this in. Like, think about this situation here in Toronto, 9 games in, and Willie makes a bad play at the blue line, and Berube sits him down for an entire period. Willie, of all people, that's probably a bad example, but Willie, of all people, is going to be okay with it. So let's go to someone else. Mitch makes a bad play at the blue line. 9 games in, sit his ass down. You're not going out for the third period. I'm making an example of you. How quickly could he possibly lose the room? And I know that they're grown men and all this stuff. And I agree with it. And I think that he needs to be hard on these guys and he's got to whip them into shape. But I think that there is an element of working it in. If he goes in and tears the paint off the walls between every intermission, it's going to get annoying for the players. They're going to start to potentially tune him out and be like, this is just all this guy does. And if he yells, then it doesn't make anything more intense or matter more. Yeah, you go in there in the Columbus game and say, what the is that after the first period? What are we doing? Wake the hell up. Yell at them on the bench. And then they're like, holy shit. You know, there's some of those spots where you have to pick and choose. I think that he will progress to a point here where it's going to start to get a little bit more. But, I mean, as it's pointed out in the chat there, I just saw it go by, so apologies. I'm not going to be able to shout it out in real time. Oh, there you go. PS 17. He sat McMahon after the second goal. Took some time away. You know, put Pacioretty in the press box. That is a veteran guy. That kind of does tell people, hey, that's a veteran guy who got here, got an opportunity, signed the contract with the team, and he's still getting the same treatment of if he's not just everyone else. So I think that it is being worked in, but he can't come over the top and just go nuts on these guys right away in the first 2 weeks of the season, not even 10 games in, and be like, sit in the press box, sit on the bench, and just rip minutes away from big guys. It's going to get there where, obviously press box is an extreme example, but, miss a shift, don't go out for this power play, whatever. I think it will build to that, but for the time being, you've got to kind of work it in. And I know people will be pissed about that and be like, you're grown men, you got to be able to handle it. I agree, but there is also just a chess game that has to be played from the coach to the players and making sure that that stuff is handled correctly. Another super chat here. Let's get to this. Maxentius Decimus. Thank you for the super chat. Boston was getting booed, then the Leafs collapsed. I mean, yeah. It's kind of just funny how that works. It's like they get booed, and all of a sudden they are right back into it, and it wakes them up and says, hey, don't be soft. Let's play a tough game. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, what are we doing? And then they get up and they go. That's so Boston. I didn't even have words to explain that. It's so Boston. And so Leafy. This is such a Leafy game. Gordon, good road point, a few sloppy moments, but they got it out of point. Yeah, they did. We've got super chats here. We hit 50 likes on the stream. Thank you to everyone who liked the stream, who's here subscribed. This is a brand new bottle. I got two, and I opened this one up earlier today and put all the water in and got it ready, so it might legit knock my socks off. One of my buddies is over. He tried it, and he just started crying earlier today. So let's hope that doesn't happen to me, but here you go. Oh my God. Thanks for the 50 likes. You hit 100 and we'll do it again. There's 300 people watching. Should be able to get those numbers up. 67 likes right now. If that's not a sign, I don't know what is. Keep it in the like button. Thank you to everyone. Oh my God, my eyeballs. Okay, a couple other things that I wanted to discuss. I don't want to dig too much into this one. Power play 0 for 3. It needs to just be addressed. It is unbelievable at this point that these guys are just not able to get it done. You're in a tight game like this, and you can't find ways to score on the power play. I mean, I look over at the Boston side and even their stats that they have. They're getting booed because the power play doesn't get going. Power play's not scoring. They go 1 for 5 on the power play tonight. Penalty kill, I thought, was actually pretty good. It made life harder for Boston, but the Bruins able to capitalize on that one opportunity, and it makes a huge, huge difference in the game. Like it makes a huge difference. You're down 1-0. Boston is that I'm saying Boston's down 1-0. They go on the power play in the second period there. Bad penalty by McCabe. You can't be taking that interference call. There's a lot of stuff that I think could be argued, like the Ryan Reeves one in the first period. That's a terrible call, in my opinion. That's a terrible, terrible interference call by the refs. Reeves is just skating back. The guy tries to cut across Reeves to kind of take him out, and he ends up going down, and it's interference. I get that the ref probably sees that peripherally. That's bad. The one by McCabe is just a bad penalty by him. Danev's going to get the puck, and you're finishing a check on the guy chasing him. Like, you can't do that. Sends Boston to the power play. They capitalize, and they tie the game 1-1. Also to note, when we're talking about the special teams, you want to know what contributed to that goal for Boston there? Quick puck movement with a purpose. I'm gonna say this a billion times this year until it starts to happen, and it's going to feel like we're all going insane. So I kind of want to avoid the conversation as much as possible, but it's like Boston snapped that puck around. They are able to go with a purpose of moving it across and across high, getting it back down low, and then as Marchand walks out to go to the front of the net and be able to try to tuck it, Tanev has to come across to make the play on Marchand so he doesn't just get to walk out clean. Marchand passes across to Pasta, and he rips a one-timer past Stolarz. 1-1 game. After a pretty electric goal from Matthew Knies. And it's just like it follows it up with that. It's like every time, like Nick said, there's a response. They're able to figure out a response, a way to get back in the game. Like, these guys are just never out against Toronto. I wanted to address the special teams. Like, I don't want to dig too much into it, what's wrong with it, but yeah, that's an issue. Okay. Penalty kill, I did think was pretty good. Stolarz here tonight. Honestly, if Stolarz was playing even just slightly below what he is right now, there would be a lot of games that could potentially be a lot worse for the Leafs right now. He has been a stud to start this season. Very thankful for him. Very, very thankful that he filled into this role, took it in stride, was confident and calm, and he was very, very dialed in. I mean, Nick brings up that Poitras breakaway at the end that he's got after the block shot on Pacioretty. He goes down, Stolarz is sharp. There's even like that overtime goal. He makes the initial save, he makes a second save, and then it's like the third one that ends up going in. It's also earlier. I think it was the Boston third goal that happens. It's like, or the second goal, Brazo goal, that he goes upstairs to make it 2-2. McMahon loses the puck off the wall on the pass. Kind of a bad pass by Myers, but also McMahon is an NHL player. You got to be able to handle that one and not fire a grenade back down below the goal line. Boston ends up picking it up. They have 3 grade A chances from basically the slot, one after the other, and finally on the third one, he's able to get it, Brazo, in the slot and score and go upstairs on Stolarz. And it's like, how are you going to blame the guy in any capacity on that one? He was a rock back there. Makes save after save after save, and then finally, yeah, you get 3 incredible chances. One of them's probably going to go in. What do you want the guy to be? You know, like, you got to give him some support there in some capacity. Kudos to Stolarz. A guy I did think played better tonight, but it's an interesting conversation because Nick didn't want to dig into it and open the can of worms, and he touched on it, and I think he's right. And it's the same conversation that I've had with JT and why he's looked the way he has so far with that third line is Nick Robertson tonight played a lot better individually. He looked much better doing the things he does in his own personal game. He looked a little bit more dangerous, more effective, like all that kind of stuff. But I don't think I'm not saying and the right way to say it is out there, but best way to say it for me right now is I don't think he's been the best line mate for JT or for Pacioretty. I just don't think he's the right fit. He has not made the line better. He looked better himself tonight. I thought he looked a little bit more dangerous. He was a bit more involved in the play, but he's not complimenting those guys as much as he needs to be right now. That's kind of the issue that I'm having with him and how he's fitting in there. And that's kind of what I was trying to get to when I said he's not the best line mate. That's kind of a crappy way to say it. I apologize, Nick, if you see this at all. But yeah, not the right word to use as line mate. I don't think he's complimenting those guys enough for that line to be kind of clicking and going all at the same time. Pacioretty looked a little bit better alongside JT there, but I don't think he kind of works as well with Robertson. I don't think Tavares has looked that great alongside Robertson here either. So it's just not being kind of like satisfying, right? Like you're watching it and it's like it looks like it's there, but like you need more. Oh, he looked real good here tonight, doing some of the things, getting in on forechecks, handling the puck in the offensive zone, creating chances, getting shots off. Oh, but the next step wasn't there. The finish wasn't there, or the ability to get a puck to someone else for them to score and create another chance for someone else wasn't there. And those were the things I was like, you were so close, but like not there. And right now, he's not scoring. He scored the goal against Columbus, and that was it. 9 games, he's got 1 goal. Kudos to him for the preseason he had. He deserves a spot on this team based on that. But right now, you showed us all, hey, I'm a producer. I produce. That's why I'm here. That's why I need a spot. Just lacking that piece that it feels like you kind of need from the guy to help you over the hump in some of these situations. Touched on Riley power play, banana lands that they put him back there. That first line, best game so far, I think, of the 9 out of them. I mean, outside of the Tampa game, but that was like the team as a whole was very, very good against Tampa. So they kind of get mixed into it, but I think that I think that this is their best game. I think that they played really well with the group that Tampa night. But outside of that, it's just like we've always wanted more out of them, and they've not really been satisfying us. This one, yeah, they were good. And they're the ones who scored the goal to tie it up. They're the ones with points and in the mix on every Leaf goal here tonight. And then, unfortunately, it's them who's the one who gives it away at the end and loses it, and it's the captain. Salvatore, I'm going to say that name wrong, Salvatore Yanni, hopefully I said it right, I appreciate it. He says, Nylander had a tough game tonight. Yeah, Nylander did not have the best game tonight. Max, am I the only one who's pissed off at this loss tonight? No, I mean, maybe. I'm not pissed off about the loss. I think part of it is, like, in my brain, I feel like I felt like they were going to lose, so it was, like, understood that this was going to be the result. It sucks because, like, I hate losing to Boston, but I feel like that's why I'm not pissed off. I thought it was going to happen. And then, which maybe is just like a sad state of being a Leaf fan, is like you shouldn't be like, oh, we're gonna lose, but it happened. So I think I'm kind of in the point where it's like, yeah, this is, you played better than you did the last couple of games, so that's a plus. Thank you, Salvatore. Glad I got it right. 91 likes. Let's get 9 more here on the stream. We got a couple things to go to before we can get out of here. We're at 51 minutes, so almost 11 o'clock as well. I'm not trying to rush us out of here. I feel like we've had a pretty good breakdown so far, but a couple things. Let's start with the best bet. yes, it sucked to lose this game here tonight, but it wasn't all bad. We did get a win, and that win was presented by Bet365. Proud partner of the Leafs Nation pregame and the Leafs Nation after dark. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Remember to use code NATION. That's NATION. Use code NATION when you sign up today. Our best bets before the game, Austin Matthews over 1.5 points. I told you, you know what? I don't have that much mathematical stuff going into this one. There's not too much that's sitting here telling me, you know what? Hey, this is an incredible number, or this is one of those spots that has to be because we have an edge on where it is and what the number should be, or anything like that. This was actually genuinely one of those situations where I was like, it feels like the big boys show up tonight. It feels like they get involved. I don't know how this is going to pan out, but they've been missing. They were not good against Columbus. They were not good against St. Louis. Matthews called himself out and said, it starts with me. I need to be better. He was much better here tonight. Finishes the game with goal and assist. He had 3 shots on goal. That was a guy I was looking at and saying, he's got to be involved. He's got to be the guy to do it. He's got to step up here tonight, and it felt like we could get there. These are the ones that these guys do kind of, especially regular season, not necessarily in the playoffs, but you think about these Leafs-Bruins matchups, and it's like, who's the guys who are involved? Pastrnak, Marchand, McAvoy, Bergeron, Marner, Matthews, Willie, JT. Like, those are the names I always think of when I think about these regular season games and these OT losses and all that stuff. I was like, you know what? He's going to be involved here tonight. There was really not much, or if any, math that went into it. Plus 165. We did a half unit bet, $50 to profit 82.5. We get that one. Matthews gets 2 points on the night. He gets 1 early on the Nyes goal, which is a great play by him. Get the puck off the wall, drive the net with power. Everyone focuses on him as he gets in tight, and then Nyes cleans that one up and puts it in. That one, he gets an assist. And then, obviously, the goal to tie it up. Make it 3-3. Good night. Over 1.5 points for Matthews. We cashed that one. Again, I told you guys, it's easy. Easy to go over to Bet365, navigate the markets they've got. Most times for any of these player props, they're going to have the best prices in market. You can get great numbers over there. Lots of markets that you can be looking at. As they said, I read it to you every single time. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, huge range of markets. These guys got it. These guys have it. So make sure to head on over to Bet365 if you're going to be looking to place bets, because that's kind of the markets that I have been diving into and trying to find any opportunity to get some type of edge against them. But obviously, they're not going to be looking for that. They just they want me to keep losing on these best bets, but we're working back to a positive here, down 0.89 units so far on the season, and we are now currently sitting at, 3-7. 9 games, 3-7. All right, I'll take it. We'll get it back. Long season left to go. Long season left to go. Let's get to our next segment here, and that would be the play of the game. Play of the game here tonight for me is going to go... It's going to be Morgan Rielly's goal. I think that as you throw all this stuff together and kind of piece together what this was, a moment for the big boys to step up, guys who should be relied upon, guys who are big pieces of this team, and it's Morgan Rielly who steps in there. I thought he looked real good in that second period. I can't necessarily say the same for the rest of the game. I don't think he was incredible throughout the rest, but that was a great play by him, great recognition, and on top of that, Marner gets into the zone, steps in, hits the reverse kind of step back as he goes into it, where he goes in, stops up, but he doesn't turn away from the play. He keeps everything in front of him, circles back, looks, and as he does, Rielly's jutting down into the slot, hits Rielly Riley hits a one-timer and scores. That was beautiful, beautiful goal, beautiful pass, and great finish by Morgan Riley in his 800th game. 800th game. That was a cool moment. It was a cool moment. It was fun to see, and good for Morgan Riley to get on the board with another goal. The honorable mention that I want to give would be Stolarz save with 5 minutes left. That thing could have been over right there. That could have been just the end of it. He makes a save on the breakaway, looks real confident all night here tonight, gave this team a real good chance, but 5 minutes left, it could have been a 2-goal game and shut it down. He makes the save, Matthews is able to tie it up, send it to overtime, and you get a point out of it at the very least. So you're not 4-5, you're 4-4-1 for what it's worth. 4-4-1 on the season. The goal to send it to overtime makes you feel a little bit better than just having lost in regulation, or by 2, I guess, at least as well. On top, another honorable mention would be the Nyes goal. I do want to shout that out too, because Matthews picks that puck up off the wall and just goes train right to the net, just in full motion. Every single person on the ice starts focusing on him as he gets into the slot, and Matthew Nyes just kind of comes in there, sneaks in, and is able to bury on a puck that just kind of pops out to him, and he's able to take advantage of it. So that's play of the game for me. Plays of the game, kind of where I came from on the Riley into the honorable mentions. Those are the ones that I wanted to point out here tonight. 5 more likes. We do smelling salts one more time here on the show before we wrap this one up. I also want to throw to you guys in the chat and see what your guys' thoughts are for the grade of the game. That's the next one that I want to get to before we wrap everything up here. Grade of the game. Hit the like button. Yes, thank you, Michael. Grade of the game for me. It's hard because it's a better game than the other days. So if I'm going to take it for what today was versus what Tuesday and Thursday were, it's the opposite end of everything. If I'm going to take it for how they played as a whole for the whole 60 minutes, it's not that high. If I'm just going with kind of what it was to what it is here today and how the fight back happened and you didn't shut it down, whatever, I'm in like a C+ kind of territory, but like B- kind of. A little bit undisciplined, some dumb penalties. You clean some of those up. Maybe there's more opportunity your way in 5-on-5 play. Power play yet again, not good. Don't get a power play goal here tonight, I guess I should say, just not even one. There's a lot that needs to be tidied up, and it was a better game, not perfect. It's like a C+, I think. C+ on the night. Stolarz, very good again. First line gets involved. Fourth line I thought looked pretty decent. Outside of that, lot to be desired. One more like, guys. One more like. C+ on the shots side. Yeah, you didn't generate a lot of shots here tonight either. That's, you got to be honest about what happened with that. There was not a lot of shots that were generated either. So it's the reality of it. But you got a point. Stolarz kept you in. I don't know. It's a weird one. It feels better than it was because the last 2 were so bad. But it really wasn't that great. But it also really wasn't that bad. So it's kind of like, this is a game. There's 100 likes. We'll do this, the final thing, before we wrap it up. An hour show here tonight. I think that's a respectable show. 230 people left. Keep hitting that like button. Mike, C+, that's a joke. Bye. What do you want, Mike? We can't be a F 100 times out of 100. Well, come on. Chad Ullman, so much coping. They suck. Fire Shanahan. Fire Tree losing. What is that about? Chad, it's all good. We'll see how they do on Monday. Coping. This is like exactly what we expected from this team. Come on. 100 likes, 103 likes. Thank you guys. Smelling salts. Oh. All right. There you go. That's it for tonight's stream. I appreciate you guys. And now we're out here. Nick's going to bed. I'm not. Time to sleep tomorrow, not today. Thank you all for watching the stream here tonight. Thank you all for subscribing, turning on notifications, all that stuff. Leafs Morning Take back Monday at 11 a.m. Chad Oldman. Monday, lose. Okay. All right, Chad. Relax. We're okay. Back Monday for Leafs Morning Take, 11 a.m. Nick and Rosie. Make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications so you guys don't miss that. They'll be back breaking that down. I'll have a game preview for you guys that day. And I will be back Monday night for another post-game show right here on the channel. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss anything. This has been game number 9 of the Toronto Maple Leafs regular season, losing this one 4-3 in overtime, going to 4-4-1 on the season. It's tough, but you're still kind of at 500-ish. You lost, I guess. You got the point, but went to OT. 4-4-1 on the season. Thanks for everyone for tuning in here tonight. Appreciate you as always. We'll see you Monday nights. Until then, keep believing. For more content just like this, including game previews, post-game live shows, Leafs Morning Take Monday through Friday with Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill with special guests, as well as instant reaction videos. Make sure to be subscribed here to the Leafs Nation YouTube channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss anything, and drop a like.